just like, oh my gosh. I mean, here's an example where you strategically you redefine your buyer group to expand it without spending a bunch of money. This field has so many fake experts, it's unbelievable. And it's really bad. It's kind of like our nice little home that we built for a long time has been infested by cockroaches.
With me today, I have Michael Olenick. He is the founder and CTO of VSTRAT AI, which is like Figma for strategy. It's born from an INSEAD research project. And today we'll talk a lot about AI and some of the stuff that are happening and new stuff, interesting stuff, and some of the stuff that is not so true, relevant, or a little bit misleading as well. Now, first of all, let's start with your journey, Michael. You started, you sold your business to a Fortune 500. How did
Correct.
that
Well, they bought it. I mean, it was actually, so it's not even a secret. Who I sold it to was Avery Dennison, and Avery, Avery makes their office products group makes labels. This is a funny aside, and so I'd built a legal expert system actually, and as part of that, you send out mailings to other people, right? And so I created labels for those mailings, and they called and they said, "How did you make?" You made our labels print on the web. This is a very long time ago when this was difficult. And I said, yes, and look at the legal expert system. And they said, look at the labels. And I said, look at the legal expert system. And they said, look at the labels. That's actually how startups go half the time. They said, could you do this with more labels? And I said, well, send me, I don't know, 2 of each. And I had no idea how many labels they actually made. And so the UPS truck came with hand truck after hand truck after. Avery makes a lot of labels. It's the gist. But they put me in a new. So they bought my company and put me in a new business group, and part of it was making growth strategy. Right. A lot of times, new business is just a kind of facade for sales, and it wasn't. They were genuinely trying, which a lot of companies at least should be, for growth. Growth is really important to companies. So I was there with a bunch of executives and trying to come up with growth strategies. And what I found was that these people, and I was like, this is a long time ago. We're very senior, and we're spending a lot of their time doing very mundane work, drawing pictures and curves and like basic stuff. It was like we were back in first grade sometimes. It's like, why are you drawing these things rather than thinking about the strategy and about the growth? And so I left to go build an engine to go do that. And one thing evolved into another, and that became VSTRAT. I was eventually, I built something. This was value innovation, which is growth and strategy. So I built something to help people think about that, to think about their strategy, not think about drawing these pictures. And eventually was approached by Renee Baborn, Chen Kim, and others. Those are the authors of Blue Strategy, and they said, this is pretty cool. And we built it out and kept on building. Eventually they said, hey, how about moving to France to INSEAD and working on this as a research project? So it's like, okay, cheap, really good wine and really good breads, what's to say no to, right? And so we did that and built, integrated generative AI eventually, and that became what we have now. And I think it's pretty cool. I mean, cross our fingers.
Now, if someone listens to this and is like, that sounds interesting, but they don't know what VSTRAT is, walk us through. What is it? What does it do? How would someone use it?
VSTRAT basically helps. It augments you think about strategy. And this is, this whole field about strategy with the LLMs is really bifurcated, split into two areas. So VSTRAT will give you a general idea about strategically where you're going. We have 3 basic components. So we have a lot of tools under those components, but underneath we have marketing strategy. A lot of people confuse marketing strategy with marketing, what we call execution. So strategy is about the segments. Who are these people? What are the personas? What is the customer journey map? What are the brand archetypes? What are you trying to reach? And then eventually, when you figure that out, you kind of throw it over the wall to the artist types, and they make videos and colors and logos and everything else. The second is what we call competitive strategy. How do you compete? It's really common where people say, I will compete by what? Doing exactly the same. So what they do is they end up just lowering their price. Oh, I'll compete by lowering. That's a horrible way to compete. It's just a race to the bottom. Your competitors will do the same thing, and next thing you know, you'll be churning a lot of revenue, which is good, at nearly no margin or negative margin, which is really a bad place to be. You don't want to be there. The third is blue ocean strategy, which is how do you redefine the industry itself? So for example, you look at a company like Nintendo, and they were forced, they came out with the DS and then the Wii. And when they came out with the Wii, analysts said, it's pointless. What are you even, look, Sony is selling it was in the PS3, was the bomb, right? And they're like, they'd spent almost $2 billion on a chip. And Microsoft was selling the Xbox 360 and losing $800 some per unit. And Nintendo was like, oh, we're a distant third in the market, and we can't afford to lose anything per unit. And we'll make a new console. And people were like, stupid. What are you trying to do? And what they said was they're going to just redefine from these hardcore gamers, a segment of people who, mush buttons really fast, to a new group of people, right? Who is like, okay, well, sure, the button mushers, they'll be our people, they'll buy our units, but so will stay-at-home moms, so will retirees, so will people who don't mush a button, so will people who play sports, so will people who move. And Nintendo, which was pretty much just called pathetic by analysts back in the day, ended up outselling Sony and Microsoft combined for 2 years, which is just an eternity in this field. I mean, that was just like forever. So VSTRAT helps people see to envision. And when I talked about bifurcation of the market, we give a lot of different paths for people. VSTRAT will help you. It augments you, helps you think. But at the end of the day, and people ask me this all the time, they say, Michael, if I press a button and get a strategy, won't my competitor press the same button and get a strategy? And I say, first, VSTRAT doesn't do that. It gives you a lot of ideas, but only you know your customers and your people and your products and why they're buying and what you're good at and what you're not so good at. Be honest. The machine doesn't know that. You can feed a bunch of data, but honestly, you feed a bunch of data, half the time it just gives you the same thing back and tells you lower your price. That's really not a place you want to be at. So what we do is we augment, we help people, but at the end of the day, that decision is up for people. The others, some others, McKinsey in a box, hello, say, type your prompt in and we'll give you a whole deck and that will be your strategy. And I'm like, no, it won't. It might look very nice, and it might sound very nice. And like, honestly, most McKinsey, it's almost a joke. It's like, what's McKinsey? They come along, they charge you a lot of money, they listen to you, they basically do what you tell them in the first place, with a 300-page deck. You have a really nice dinner, and then you take that deck and you give it to your plant manager or your people, and they smile and they say, that's brilliant, just great insight. And they stick it on the desk and it becomes a paperweight, or eventually goes in the recycling bin. So we don't want that. We want stuff that actually helps people, that augments, that is actionable, that's useful.
It sounds like you have a lot of experience in these places and you've seen the pitfalls, where it sounds like it's a combination of seeing the same old, just it's the same strategy, lower your prices, or you listen to your client, they give you the information, you write a pitch deck, just like really elaborate pitch deck, and nothing happens at the end of the day because something is missing. What is the thing that is missing in the strategy that you've seen successfully implemented and the strategies that are sitting on a desk collecting dust?
Yeah, so the strategies that are success execution is what we call it. There's an old saying, and like a lot of old sayings, it's actually kind of true, which is culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so if you bring in a culture and you don't do anything to kind of involve these people, to democratize your strategy, to get their input, there's a good chance that nothing is going to actually be done. At the end of the day, it's very rare for people to adopt something they don't believe in, that they don't buy in, and half the time can't even work in the first place. I don't do a lot of consulting, but occasionally I'll do some here and there. And it's not uncommon for people to bring in, say plant manager who absolutely should be in a strategy meeting, absolutely belong there. But then they start kind of throwing out MBA terms at them, and they're just a deer in the headlights. I mean, VSTRAT tries to get around that, but it's like, oh, here, fill in this template, and they're like, uh, huh? I just want my people like not to get hurt and to make more widgets. And it's like, but I was like, no, that's what I do. I mean, that's kind of my job. I'm like, I handle the people who make widgets, so they should make more widgets. How does this apply to me? And the truth is, they're not dumb. They got to be plant managers for a reason. But you're not involving them. You're not really bringing them in. You're going to paying them lip service. And so by giving them hopefully these tools to actually build out your businesses, your firm's strategy, we're hoping, cross our fingers, and we're seeing some of this, that you're actually able to execute your strategy better by involving people. And maybe also there's a fine chance, because they do see what's going on, they might say, hey, here's an idea that you might try that you people haven't thought of. Okay, you're there at your desks. One thing I say, and it's just so common, is that some of your most helpful people are just some of your least listened to people, right? How much are those people sitting on the phones actually bringing in and listening to the customers? They're not dummies. They might be, but many are not going to be. How much are those clerks who see people, see them, right, and see what they're doing, and see where they're confused, and see whether it just has to bring in those people and to develop something that's actionable. First of all, they're actually going to be more likely to buy in and do it if they're involved in it. But secondly, they hopefully will bring in insights for your customers, for your buyers, or for your, in Blue Ocean terms, what we call non-customers. They might say, oh, yeah, for every buyer, there's another one or two who are kind of looking for something that we don't see. It's not a digression at all. So one of the projects I worked on just ages ago was with Nintendo, and Nintendo had invented the DS, and their question was, well, it's a hit. Everybody's buying a DS. We're selling lots of DSs. How do we grow the market when we're selling so many DSs? Oh, everybody who wants a DS has a DS. And I said, well, who's the everybody that wants a DS? And they said, it's boys and young men. That's who gamers are back in the day. I said, boys and young men, huh? Okay. And he came up with, here's an idea. How about girls and women? And they said, well, they don't really game so much. The gist is, cutting to the end, they released Nintendo a DS in pink. And I sit in MBA classes. Now I'm on my own, but I just came from INSEAD, a business school, and say, hey, women, these are all kind of women who are in their late 20s, early 30s, and say, women, how many of you had a DS? And almost everybody raises their hand. And we say, what color? And they say pink, pink, pink. Black because I had my brothers, but I wanted pink, 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 pink. And it's just like, oh my gosh. I mean, here's an example where you strategically, you redefine your buyer group to expand it without spending a bunch of money. People are like, oh, we could, we'll do a big brand change. And it's like, no, they didn't. All they did was invite these non-customers to buy their product and said, yes, it's for you. come on into our into our firm. And they said, oh yeah, we belong here. It's kind of a cool place to be. Like, hello, why don't more companies do that? And VSTRAT is designed to help you do that, but also I hope just people think about that in the first place, right?
Now, those examples, especially with Nintendo, they're very innovative and very interesting. And sometimes you need some sort of a catalytic technology. And today, a lot of people believe that generative AI is that catalytic technology, something to propel them forward. But like you were mentioning off camera, this is something that has happened from 1959 in MIT labs. So generative AI or AI is not something that happened 3 years ago. We've had it for many years. You work with it with many years, but you see a high rate of failure when it comes to AI implementation. What is the missing piece? What are we not seeing that a lot of people see it as a catalytic technology, but has a tremendously high amount of failure rate in implementation?
Yeah, that's just a fantastic question. And right before we called, I'm like, I think I write weekly, sometimes twice a week, blog posts, and I was just beginning to write another one on the history of generative AI, and I'm like, I've written this before, but I'm going to write it again because people really need to know it. So, just hitting the time machine, the MIT AI lab was established in 1959. Hello, none of us were born. Most of our parents weren't born. Our grandparents were children. This is not a new idea to go and create computers that think. We look at sci-fi and Asimov's Foundation. They had thinking machines, thinking algorithms back way back when. We look at things like brand archetypes, and Carl Jung was making those in the 1800s. This stuff just isn't new at all. What is new is generative AI, and people don't really seem to understand, no matter how much, where it comes from, and where it comes from is really important. So Google originally, first the web was just a tangled mess of stuff. And then Google came along and said, hey, relevance is really important. We look at what's linked to backlinks, what links to something else, that's all important. And people are like, oh, that's much better results. And it was game, back and forth and back and forth. And Google changed their algorithm. And over time, they said, hey, in our research labs, rather than trying to, game the system, why don't we actually just see if we can make an AI that reads a site and sees what it actually is thinking about. They call that transformer tech. And there's an irony because they came up with a white, these are, half academics, half business people, and they came up with a white paper that said, attention is all you need. And it's like, correct. People, that applies to you too. Pay attention, seriously. So the system was transformer technology that read pages, read stuff, and had a good idea what it means. Eventually, some others, really Elon Musk and a few others, OpenAI was a nonprofit, said, hey, if you run this machine that reads and understands backwards, it writes. It's basically like, running the car in reverse. It drives pretty well, they realized. And that became generative AI. And so people were talking about like marketing to the model. And it's like, it's a different type of SEO. And it's like, well, it was made for SEO. I mean, they literally built this thing from Google for search engine optimization, to optimize their own results. So to optimize your own stuff for it, well, you just do the same thing that you should be doing. You make relevant, you make germane content. It was predictable that they eventually start advertising products and you can buy them directly. That just started a couple of weeks ago, actually. First with Shopify, now with Walmart. OpenAI is doing that, but hello, I mean, they make a lot of money, but they spend even more. So it was kind of predictable that they would look for a way to try to cover their costs. People look and they say, I pay OpenAI $20 or €20 a month, so I must be getting an entirely objective stuff, and it's like that doesn't cover their cost for you. Seriously, I mean, it's better than Google. You use that for free, but they need a lot more money than that. So, oh, that's a long and rambling way of saying people really need to just make relevant content. We hope that VSTRAT guides you to doing that. If you choose the right kind of tool, that you're able to focus your segment, focus your product, focus your strategy on what matters, on buyers, customers, and non-customers actually want. But ultimately, at the end of the day, yeah, I could turn out a book of stuff. There's a reason we abandoned books of stuff way back when, because people didn't read them. Attention is all you need, right? I was telling you right before we hit the record button. Now, I don't spend a lot of time, but we'll look at investor sites or incubator sites. And then the irony is they say, describe your business in one sentence or a few words. And that's not bad. That's, can you get straight to the point? Do you understand what you're doing? And then half of what they're actually funding are people making LLMs that churn out like pages and pages and pages of junk. And it's like, do you realize you just are funding and people want exactly what you said you don't want? Does that irony? And is there any question that there's a high failure rate in that? It's like, there's a reason we got rid of. You could have written out this stuff longhand back in my day when I was selling stuff, my business on strategy, and there were charts and graphs and people drawing. There's nothing stopping them from picking up a piece of paper, a hammer and chisel, and a piece of stone, and writing their strategy out longhand. Except they kind of intuitively knew nobody would read it.
Very interesting.
And that's the same problem they still have now.
When we're looking at part of the problem that you're showing here is it's overcomplicating, and at the end of the day, the way that you're explaining the generative AI that is the new stuff, the way that it was started from Google and then basically reverse engineer with Elon Musk and OpenAI at that time when it was a non-for-profit. Then you can see how they write it. Now we can see how we read it, and slowly but surely generative AI becomes a thing, which means just make more relevant content. But you have this analogy of the remote control example where the cost just keeps rising, but it's reducing the value. And I think OpenAI was a good example with ChatGPT. It started with one thing, and then DeepSeek launched research, and then the labels just went off the chart. I don't even know which model what we're doing. So walk us through this like remote control example or analogy that you have.
And the remote control is something I just use all the time. This is partly from Blue Ocean Strategy, but it sure does apply to modern generative AI technology too. So everybody's seen the remote controls that are just nothing but bigger with more and more and more buttons. And they seem to be in a race, remote control makers, with, can we add more stuff to our remote control? So this button does that, and that one has a picture-in-picture, and that one starts Netflix, and at the same time, three other than this one, and on and on and on. And what happens? What happens is your parents inevitably press some button and call you because the TV doesn't work. And every one of those buttons had to be discussed, engineered, programmed, QA tested, manufactured. And how much value did they add? Pretty much none. Maybe to a small, teeny group of people, they might have done something that they did figure out some other way to do it anyway. They added confusion. So if we look at something like that, we're adding cost, right? I mean, all these things are expensive, but we're not adding value. In fact, we're actually subtracting value. We're probably frustrating the core user group from enjoying and using our product that who we want to market to, right? I mean, and we even see that. We see companies like Apple and a few others who are like, okay, enough of the giant remote controls. We'll just make a few buttons. and some better way to navigate through this thing. Now, there's still plenty who are making the giant remote controls that take up a lot of space. And so when we think about a piece of technology, or really any product or service, there's just this almost knee-jerk reaction to go make more stuff. How many people have heard of feature-itis, and you add more and more and more things, and it's like, how does it work? And look, I do it myself. There's just a natural human inclination to do this. I was at INSEAD for a long time, and we studied prospect theory, which came out of psychology, and people have what's called loss aversion. They really don't, they value it, see this idea that you don't ever want to lose something. You want to always add and add and add. And so because of that, you end up with things like finance people who go into product development meetings, and these are like hardcore, like use fewer office products, save money, fire anybody you can, bring the cost down to zero. And they get into a product development session, and somebody says, nobody's really using this thing. Why don't we just get rid of it? They're like, no, you can't do that. Hell, we got to compete. We're gonna. It's like, seriously. It's just a human. It's a psychological quirk we have. That's one area where the robots, they imitate us, so they have some of these quirks, but they tend to be a lot better at just saying, this isn't real valuable. Your buyers don't seem to really care about this so much. Get rid of it. Eliminate. Reduce it down. To its core function, and by doing that, you lower cost and you raise value, and that's a really hard thing to do.
Lowering costs and raising value it's one of those things. Don't overpromise, overdeliver. It's easier said than done, but it's a principle that we should definitely follow. What I want to ask you a question about is when AI and all these companies just completely go in the wrong direction, because it's an emerging technology and there's a lot of crazy stuff happening. And I want to ask you what are some of the stuff that you're seeing when it comes to red flags? If someone is talking or thinking of, investing or buying or using some of these edges, what are some of the red flags that they might notice? And I'm asking this because it's recent. I think it's like a month or something ago that the FTC sued Air AI. It alleges that it has deceptive claims for businesses, and for context, AI was like a chat voice agent that it talks and does sales, but it's so good it sounds like a human, and apparently or allegedly they had very high claims or deceptive claims, so the FTC is suing for Air AI to stop working. This is the framework that I want to say. Like, what are some of the stuff that you're like, that's a red flag, that AI is not being, or this tool is not really doing that?
It's people. One of my favorites. So we were talking to somebody a while ago and they put on our website, and we just joke about this, we do everything for everybody, and it's like, run, get out of there. Do not talk to this person. If you do everything for everybody, you do nothing for nobody. Hello. That just shows that you are just not. You're just doing whatever somebody tells you to do, and you're probably doing it really poorly. This field has so many fake experts, it's unbelievable, and it's really bad. It's kind of like our nice little home that we built for a long time has been infested by cockroaches, and because of that, we're seeing things. MIT is saying, 85% of projects fail, and sure enough, if I put my dog onto working on your AI transformation project, it guaranteed it would most likely, unless you were trying to, serve food, probably fail, because they just don't know what they're doing. And is that insulting? I don't know. It's no more insulting than saying I can't play the piano. I just can't. So why would I ever say I could? Even if it became like really common, I'm still not able to do it. With a lot of practice and time, I am probably still would be crappy at it. Just terrible and something like that. So there's a group of people, and there's just not many, who have been doing this for a really long time. And some who've been doing it not even for a long time, but are really good at it. And there's a enormous group of people who have, say they're experts. I was talking to one group, who I won't say, way back when. This is when way back when, a few years ago, when ChatGPT first came out. I had my VSTRAT and early systems, and they said, very arrogantly, "We are training the LLM." And I said, "You're training it?" Well, back then you couldn't train ChatGPT. You just used it. And they said, "Well, training is called fine tuning." And I said, "I know what it's called. I've been doing this for a long time. But you can't fine tune ChatGPT. What are you doing?" And they said, "Oh, we're typing in prompts and it's learning based on what we're typing." And it's like, no, you're dressing yourself in a mirror and adjusting your outfit depending on what you see, because that's all that system is doing. And those people were considered hello experts, and they still probably are considered experts. And the truth is, you're not helping your client, you're not helping whoever you're working for, you're consulting with, if you don't know what you're doing. And they don't genuinely know what they're doing. It is what it is. I mean, but they sure are overrunning this field and really reducing the brand proposition of it. This is transformative technology. It's awesome. It's great. Like I said, been working on this forever. We had a generative AI. It's even better. It could really help people do what they're doing. We talked about this briefly, but this technology in many ways is like a car. So people are like, man versus machine. And it's like, well, yeah, best of luck, like running a foot race with a car. You'll lose. Unless it's something where the car can't go, it's not going to happen. It's pointless to even have that discussion. It will win one, like every time on the street. On one hand. On the other hand, if you put somebody in the driver's seat who doesn't know what they're doing, yeah, they'll run pretty fast right into a tree and right out off a cliff. And it isn't that the car is a bad machine or that its value was low. It's that you just didn't know how to use it, how to operate it correctly. And so generative AI is the same way. It's a fantastic machine. It's very valuable, incredibly useful, but you have to know how to use it. And just most people don't. And if that's insulting to them, it shouldn't be insulting to them. Like I said, it's no more insulting than not being able to, write a good essay, than not being able to play a piece of music. It's a skill, and it's a skill that not too many people have.
It's very interesting the way that you're presenting it in the most simple way possible. That if you're afraid of it, don't be. At the end of the day, it's a tool that is fantastic, and it's here to stay, and it will definitely help you. Just be careful of what do you think it can truly do, or what are truly the capabilities. All these like insane overclaims. It's probably created by people that are quote unquote experts that really don't know what they're doing it. So it's a tool that stays, and it can be used in a fantastic way. It can be used to help you with blue strategies. It can be useful to help you with the way that you do your competitive strategy, but always think with augment your thinking. Don't just pass it on and then be upset that it kind of spits some hallucinating stuff. Now, if Michael, someone listens to this and they're like, wow, this guy is interesting, I want to work with him. How do people get a hold of you to work with you?
Just write to me. mfolnick at gmail.com, at vstrat.ai. Write to me, call me. I'm not that hard to find. There's LinkedIn, web pages, and I'm reasonably, really almost too easy to find. And I'd love to work with people. You brought up a really good question. You said, what is it good at? And so this is something, because I talk to people about this, and we talk about hallucinations and how LLMs hallucinate sometimes. And I said, VSTRAT itself, we've done a lot to try to temper down hallucinations. A lot of technology behind that. But I tell people, look, these systems sometimes will hallucinate. And when it comes up with something that sounds kind of crazy, stop for a couple minutes. So ask yourself, is that something I don't see that the machine does. Because a lot of the people will immediately say, no, it's just hallucinating. Sometimes, maybe that happens, but is it? Or is it seeing something you don't see? Is it seeing something that may be a new direction, a new buyer group, a new product, a new service? Is it seeing something that leads you to believe that maybe there's a new way, a new direction, a new strategy to take your firm in? So, as much as I'm like, these systems could be dangerous, they could also be awesome, man. Yeah.
Fantastic. It's absolutely something that you want to give it a shot. You want to learn it because when I started using it, it was very cool. And I think I fell into the trap of the overhype, and then you're like, "Wow, this is just bad." It cannot get. It's not there yet. Most of the time, like you take too many shots at it, you keep going back and forth with prompts, and then you're like, "Look, if I sat down, I would have done this." Like it's not this press a button and then everything, all your problems are solved. But it's a very, very good tool, something that definitely reduces like 30-40% of your workflow in your time, so you can focus on the strategies and then think with it. Don't just pass on your thinking to it. Think with it, and it will definitely help. So
Oh
Michael,
yeah,
appreciate the time.
it's wonderful. I mean, it's just fantastic technology. Going back to hallucinations, one thing, an analogy I say, AIs are like a child that will lie if you push it
Yeah.
beyond its capability. If a child comes in and you say, and they're kind of beat up a little bit, not beat up, they fell down. You say, what happened? They say, I fell down. And you say, tell me the truth about what happened. Well, the truth is I just fell down. I mean, that's how they got scraped up. But if you really push the kid and you say, what really happened? They'll say, well, a monster came out of a tree and pushed me out. Like, seriously, they'll come up with junk. And so AIs do the same thing. Don't push them beyond their regular limits on what they do. I mean, listen to them. But gosh, oh golly, I love this technology. I've been doing this for a long time, and so have a lot of other people. So I don't want to sound too cynical on this on one hand, and it's like just like it's a little frustrating. But and it comes even to time. People are like, well, look, your machine can do something in 5 minutes that used to take us weeks. And it's like, yeah, it can. But I say, maybe you should still take weeks and just do more of it. Or they never do. They just want to reduce cost. But oh well. There's nothing wrong with the machine saying, or you saying, or person saying. I don't know. So what's the best way to move forward? I don't know. But we'll see, and we're all in this together.
Yeah.
I want to know whether it's you, your clients, your listeners, your customers, whomever else. I don't know. But we'll try, and we'll plot a course that makes sense, hopefully.
It's important to enjoy the journey, and I think it's a fantastic journey. Absolutely, I agree with you on that one. So I appreciate the time, Michael. Thank you for everything, and wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. It's great talking to you.